Before we get going, just a little bit of background as to why I'm speaking here. I don't know if there's any PR people in the room. There's obviously lots of marketing people in the room, but I've been doing PR my entire working life, which is only 10 years, but PR industry's been the same for about 100 years since the early part of last century. But in the last couple of years, really, it's changing completely, which is quite cool. It does mean that the industries which realize what PR can now do vary. So, some consumer industries, consumer-facing industries, which our company represents, like drink brands or consumer entertainment brands, take as much advantage as they can with social media. But to be fair, and I hope I don't offend anyone, having done a quick analysis of what your industry is doing, and I'm implying obviously I'm an outsider because I do not have any clients in this industry, there really isn't that much going on. So I hope, after I've kind of laid out the logic of what we do for... Okay, so just a quick, and I've got some slides, but I don't particularly love PowerPoint. I'm sure you guys don't, so I might not use all of them. But before I start, just a quick question of the guys in the room. Who uses social media for themselves personally? Okay, so it's quite a lot for the benefit of the camera. Who uses it for their business? The same people. Okay, that didn't quite work out. Okay, but as an example, I went through all of the conference the conference sponsors, and I checked what the traditional kind of most worthwhile social media channels as to whether there was official profiles available for those particular sponsors. And apart from, I think, Party Gaming, which has a careers Facebook page, there was none. So there's simple things which, that's one of them, i.e. go out straight after this, get your own official channels from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube before anyone else does, and just start doing it, because obviously that's all free. So there shouldn't be any barriers for you. Before we start, though, just a recap of obviously the logic, which to most people might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised. The principle as to why the PR industry, and forgive me if I'm biased, suddenly can win a few battles against the advertising industry is that things have changed massively, as everyone knows. So, basically, it's a little bit more complicated. No longer can brands, regardless of whether they're in your industry or any other industry, just have a position which they adopt for 3 or 4 years and keep it the same. They need to be much more mobile and evolve according to what people are saying. Now, typically, when you get into a marketing budget discussion with the VP of marketing of an international brand, there's lots of people around the room, I'm one of them, representing different disciplines. And they say, right, here's how you should spend your $10 million. And the advertisers will choose always, to a certain extent, apart from Twitter where you can't advertise, the same mistakes that we can, because it's all about numbers. But the difference between the disciplines now is that we're far more robust about what we can say and what we can deliver. And it was obviously a battle that we always used to lose against advertisers who would just literally quote numbers. And it's numbers that the PR industry could never do apart from circulation figures, because the comparison was always bad for us. Now, thanks to new tools, things like click-throughs on video assets, we can go a little step further. We can try and grab a little bit more money off the advertisers. But the key thing that I wanted to bring from this diagram is the fact that once all the analysis is done and you decide, right, well, my customer spends most time on platform X, the thing that probably isn't considered enough is the fact that platform X behaves in a particular type of way. And the platforms on your right are much more conversational, fragmented, you know, like Facebook. And the platforms on your left, to be brutally honest with you, the advertisers do a much better job. So, what's the advantage of what we can do that advertisers can't do? Well, we can play, basically, with consumers where they're most comfortable. There's no interruption. So the theory goes, and mind you, to be honest, it's just theory, because there's still no numbers, despite our best efforts in the PR industry and other industries, that if you receive information from your friend, you're obviously much more likely to act upon it than a direct advertisement from a brand. And that's what we can deliver. The trouble is, it's not that easy, as you guess. Not that we're trying to make it difficult to get more money. But the way in which the media is now is essentially kind of like sediments, as it were. Different types of people that we try and aim our guns at behave in different ways. So we've still got the websites where we can sell in a story for you. You've just launched a new website or service. But then we've got ever more powerful specialist personal bloggers who have got their particular passions, which may or may not be online gaming. And that's where we come in, or as a discipline, not just us, but where you can come in, because you can have a look at what your businesses are doing, and you can maybe think outside of the fact that you just need to sell your particular product or proposition. And you can have a look at all the free tools that are out there, Google being the best one. And you can have a look at all the terms at the bottom when you do your search around your industry. And you'll see that consumers are talking on topics close to the topics you're trying to sell about. If you can talk to that particular topic and come up with a position, maybe a little bit more uncomfortable for most traditional brands, then suddenly you're going to be unlocking all of this potential, which wouldn't necessarily be talking about online gaming. And of course, we also have people who use social networks. So just to give you an idea of the numbers, and these are just numbers, these are in fact old numbers, they're in principle comparable to the traditional advertising spend that you would spend on a broadsheet. A little bit more specialist, and obviously the numbers at the bottom about the social network are holistic, so not everyone on Facebook is going to be talking about your product. But because of the fact that they're a lot more rigid about the way that they count server stats, it means that if you were to invest in social media as a principle, along basically a blend of PR and advertising and direct marketing and relationship management, it means it's that much more easy to justify where the budget's been spent. So here's the problem that I've got, right? And if I was ever going to try and sell to you, this would be the question you'd ask sooner rather than later. I've got X amount of pounds, and I need to reach a zillion people. What you're proposing, as us, because we do it by hand, we don't do it syndicated as advertisers do, is just essentially much more expensive. So if I can do my industry a disservice and at the same time hopefully be a little bit more sophisticated about the arguments that we should be having with advertisers, is the fact that if the person that controls the budget, sorry, just wait, please come in. If the person that controls the budget is completely fixated and loved with the idea that the audience numbers must be better as a consequence of investing in PR or third-party recommendation, then just cut your losses. Because the worst thing is that we obviously work with some big brands. I can't go into international brands, which I'm quite happy to talk about afterwards. And it's quite easy for people to be dishonest about what social media can and can't do. There's astronomical numbers associated with the social networks. But these things actually take weeks, if not months, to build a community around a particular area. So it really is basically it's a patience-orientated game compared to advertising.